Today's creative topic is one that I could spend days on, but for everyone's benefit, I'm gonna limit it to like 3 minutes. And that is curiosity. Curiosity is at sort of a bedrock of not only creativity, but sort of all the wonderful things about being human. If you've never read the book Tomorrow Mind, it's brilliant. I'm linking it and mentioning it below, but it looks into how humans are curious and creative and how that started sort of in the hunter-gathering days and evolved to where we are today. But it's sort of a bedrock of human happiness, well-being, and drive, which is really cool. So to the sake of time, I'm gonna break this into 3 different subtopics. 1 is creativity and curiosity. 2 is business professional world and curiosity, twist. And 3rd is just sort of general well-being and curiosity as well. So to start with creativity and curiosity, I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in creativity that we don't realize that like interweaving through that entire process is curiosity. It's investigating what we're working on. It's being engaged with the work. You know, as a writer, right? It's just a constant questioning and curious attitude I take towards what I'm working on. Whether it's the characters, the world I'm building, the dialogue they're having, how would they react to each other. I'm always asking questions about these made up people, but being curious about how they would interact and engage and where they are in the world. And I think this applies, to any sort of creative process, whether it's songwriting, painting, getting the right, how can I get the right feeling? How can I evoke the right mood with the right color? How can I find the right words to convey this over the right chord progression? So being curious and investigating is really at the heart of the creative process. And I think sometimes they're so intertwined, we don't parse them out a bit, but it's a really powerful tool and it's a fun way to think about it. This is a little shift. Number 2 is actually business success and curiosity. And I wouldn't usually put this in something like this, but I actually went to a meeting at work this week and one of the speakers was high up, successful, really loved in the company. And what I found so interesting is at the bedrock of his success was this curious attitude, right? He got into tech because he was like fascinated by how things work, engineering. He came to the US from a different country because he was interested in the culture, curious about how it lived over here, what it's like to be in the US. And then he took that curiosity about his subject and went to college here. And then once here, he was very curious about people, and his love of his subject matter intersected with his curiosity about people and developing relationships. And then it sort of blew up from there. Built relationships, got great internships, took that curiosity about his subject and the people around him, built that, and then took it elsewhere too. So being really curious about what you're working on in a business, asking those follow-up questions, digging in, solving problems, and then also being curious about the people you're working with, asking them questions, using what they know, and building out those relationships also helps define success. Because when you love what you do and you love the people you're connected to, they're gonna wanna help you get to that next step. You're gonna wanna help them, and it just builds this powerful network. Which I think actually segues really beautifully into number 3, which is just sort of the general joy that curiosity can bring to daily life. Whether it's, investigating things, we're gonna do some exercises about looking at mundane things and sort of seeing what's interesting about them. That's gonna be one of the exercises this week. But generally, when you are curious about something, right, you wanna learn more about it. And once you learn more about it, you dig deeper to that other level and you think, oh, who else is interested in this? What else has been done on this subject? What are the problems in this area? Can I help solve those problems? So as you get more and more curious, you go deeper and deeper, get more invested in it. And the really cool thing about that, right, is then you start to share. So you share about your interests, your curiosity, where it's taken you. And then also it builds that community because, you're gonna find some other nerd who's interested in what you're curious about. And then you're gonna connect. In my own life, it's video games. I just love video games, especially the old school era when I grew up in the 90s. And so finding someone who's really invested in that is always really wonderful. Because when you nerd out then, set up game nights, online conversations, pass each other memes back and forth. And that's all just due to that curiosity. What interests you, where you dig in deep, and then what you share from it. So I think that was pretty succinct for something I could talk about forever. But curiosity, sort of the bedrock of being a person, and a really powerful way to experience the world. Today's creative exercise is actually curiosity focused as well. So investigating the ordinary, and it is exploring the mundane. This is a fun way to kind of just give yourself a curious exercise once a day, and that is to pick something that you normally just ignore or never even think about, and then do research on it. Google it, look it up on Wikipedia, and see what you can find about it. This exercise actually came up because my husband and I were at Chili's, love Chili's, and we got ketchup, and he's like, "What's the deal with ketchup?" And I was like, "Oh, it's just like tomatoes." And he's like, "But like, where did it come from? Like, what's its source?" And so we did this like incredible investigation of ketchup. It used to be mushroom based. Like, people love ketchup, but it was really hard to make. So Heinz, like one of their original campaigns is like, help your mother out, like buy Heinz so she doesn't have to make it in the kitchen. Like, ketchup has this like deep, incredible history that I just never thought about. So it's a fun exercise. You'll learn something weird and random about something weird and random, but it's really cool, and you can start sharing it with your friends as well. It's also a fun exercise to just kind of do once a day. Find something that you usually ignore, investigate it, see if there's anything interesting about it, and share with friends, and be awesome at the next cocktail party. Today's creative exercise actually looks at curiosity by doing a retro viewpoint. So I do this creativity questionnaire with some of my clients, and they look at, one of the questions I asked is, what were you excited about when you were a kid? What did you work on? What were you creative with? What did you design? What were your interests there? Because there's a really powerful thing to look back. It might remind you of what you really love to do. It might give you a starting point for something to work on now, or, it might just be a common thread that you see through your life. When I was little, I remember for my first novel when I was in first grade, about this like secret waterfall world. So it's a really cool exercise where you can like look back and either see continuity with your life, or maybe dig in and discover things you've forgotten that were really powerful. So take 10 to 15 minutes, kind of sit with your thoughts, think, go back in your memory, and see if there's anything, any memories that burst up about what you're creative about, and how you can apply that to current day, and revive that latent curiosity. When I did this exercise, I remembered I'd done a comic book when I was in 4th grade. It was called Catman, and it was like a parody of Batman, and it was like really ridiculous and really wonderful, but I'd forgotten that was the thing that I did. And it also just sort of took me back, and then I started meditating on books that I'd read, that I was really passionate about, that I loved. So actually, when I was doing this exercise myself, I picked up Harriet the Spy from the library because I hadn't read it for a long time, and it was something that, I was excited about, and I remember it inspired me to be, my writing tendencies and that kind of thing. So 10 to 15 minutes, so sit with your thoughts, think about how you were creative when you were a kid, and see if there's any overlap with you presently, or if you can mine that for some inspiration. So today's creative exercise is very curiosity-based as well. It's called the 5 Whys, started by Taichi Ono at the Toyota Motor Company, but I learned about it through Daniel Pink in one of his masterclasses. And essentially, it's asking why 5 times to get to the bottom of a problem. It doesn't work all the time. Sometimes it takes you to a weird place, personally, especially if it's a personal question. But it's a really great way to just sort of like keep yourself accountable and make sure that you're going to a root cause rather than just thinking about like surface issues with your problem that you're trying to deal with. So I encourage you to spend 10 to 15 minutes, think about a problem you're running into, whether it's at work or personal, and then just list out 5 whys and just go down another layer with each one. One kind of personally that I did that was helpful and also like kind of a little bit traumatic was I was thinking about my last book, and I thought, my last book didn't sell as well as I thought. So I thought, why? And I was like, well, I didn't advertise it a lot. I just sent it to local groups in my social media, local vicinity. Why? Well, to be honest, like I wouldn't go there. Like, I kind of get embarrassed. What if it's not good enough? What if, people don't like it? What if they make fun of me? Why? Well, that would sort of undermine who I am as a writer and make me uncomfortable. So I'm worried about that rejection. Why? Well, now you're getting into like rejection of my past, like what that looked like, coming out, very dark stuff. Why? So you can see that like if you have personal questions, it can get to a weird place. But once you get to that final place, like my choice is like, okay, why do I need that external validation? Why am I digging into this? Why can't I just sort of like be happy with expressing myself, take the good and the bad? So it gets really complex sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't do anything. But the 5 whys is just a really powerful way to investigate, personal, professional, family problems and try to get at root causes. So it's kind of fun. Also can kind of be like restorative in different ways, as my exercise was, or at least make me think more deeply about myself. So 5 whys, ask yourself it like one question today and go through it. Once again, if you have time over the next week, it's a fun exercise, keeps you curious, keeps you investigated, and can help bring up some really cool stuff.